Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How are we doing? It's Russ here from Poker's Corner, the voice of hardcore boxing. Today, I'm joined with Today, I'm joined by the co-founder of Poker's Corner with me, Rico, from Finland originally, but he's living in London. Croydon, isn't it, Rico? South Croydon.
Well, we can't tell. With all these trolls, we don't want to be telling people. Sonny Edwards, watch out! Sonny Edwards, watch out! I run these streets.
How are you, lad? All right.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good to be back, and I do love the background they have these days. It's excellent.
Yeah, it's not going to get a better one than that. That's just a temporary one they're sending me another. But yeah, it'll do, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'll only come back next time when you're wearing the leather jacket. It's getting to that time of year where we need to see you with your leather jacket, mate.
Or the Michael Jackson one.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe wear one glove as well.
If I get another stone on me, it'll fit me right.
Good stuff.
A lot's gone on. I just had Kent on. I went home from here early. I've been here early this morning. Did some filming with Julian. Went home afternoon, and where I live, everybody's all complaining. So what's the matter? Oh, there's no internet. What about? The first thing they say, and I don't agree with this. They always say travellers have nicked all fibre optic cable, but they don't know who's took it. But they blame people like that, and I've had people blame me. You know, because I wear a gold chain and all that, and some of my mates are travellers. So I say, whoa. Don't say that to me because it's somebody's took it, but you don't know who. So it's been tough. Prove it, yeah. So there's no 7 to 10 days. I'm not bothered anyway. I've got all my videos that per month. So it just means I just have to come here if I need to do anything. But I should be here anyway. I shouldn't be like just coming in and tossing it off at home. But sometimes you got to fit it around what your lifestyle is, isn't you?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's it.
So I've come back and I thought, well, I might as well stay a little bit. I did a little bit of training and I've gone downstairs. I had a Cadbury's twirl down there, you know, in canteen. I thought, where's my Cadbury's twirl?
You did have a porky shake.
Yeah. Well, I'd had that earlier. I've got a cuppa here, no biscuit, no, and I've just set a Ribena with no butter. I thought, is that a way? Oh, there's some porridge in there. Look. From as a little tube of porridge, but I don't want that. It's not morning, is it? I'm not a big porridge fan.
Yeah.
I had enough of that in Armley. But
you've ruined the word porridge for me. Anytime you say porridge, I always think about somebody doing porridge.
Yeah. Hey, listen, porridge is not bad. Prison porridge is terrible, but I'm a bit of a baby for porridge. I don't like oats and that. I prefer ready bread, but they say that's cheating, don't they?
Yeah, true.
But how are you, Rico? Are you all right?
I'm good. I mean, it's been a crazy few months with boxing, hasn't it? We'll get to the fight that's just been announced and the whole Conor Ben stuff and everything else. It's just, I don't know. It really feels like we're sort of spiraling towards the bottom. And I always think like this is the last days of Rome, right?
Turn your volume down a bit, mate. Just turn your volume just down a touch, yeah?
Okay.
That's better. Yeah, go on. So you were saying.
Yeah, I feel like it's the last days of Rome where everybody's trying to get essentially as much money out of the fans as they can and, you know, cash everything out because it's all turning into chaos. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been talking to some people today and they say that Joshua might not be coming back for a while. So he's taking time out and that. Yui's taking time out. And I think people behind the scenes are thinking, it's a bit of a pool feast at the moment, isn't it?
But you know, we've said it for years on this channel, right? That where's the talent going to come from? And I think that's really the challenge, isn't it? Where are we going to get the next Joshua's or the next Whites or whoever it might be, right? And that's the big challenge. Well, you know, people that do sell tickets and do attract. Whether you think White's good or not is everybody's own business, and we know what White is. But essentially, there are many guys that you're not going to turn your telly on to watch Josh Taylor. Right? You're not going to be excited to watch Josh Warrington. You're not going to be excited to watch a lot of these guys. And But the guys like Frampton retiring and, you know,
hey,
Joshua, Tyson Fury in the decline, it's what they have left, man.
What do you think about? We'll back up a little bit. We'll back up to Ben Eubank. Leading up to it, we'll back up to end of August. It's gone through a drug test. It's Barder. Matcher were paid for all that to show, look, we're clean. They failed. That's the 30th of August. The 23rd of September, that period of 24 days, it took them to give a result. They failed it. The silence from that day to the 6th of October. What's happened between that 8 days, that 2 weeks, 13 days, 14 days? What's happened in that period, Rico? What do you think? What do you think?
So just to be clear, is that the period where essentially the test has been failed, but the fight is still seen to be going on? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I think there's a few points here. Number one is boxing might be the only sport in the world where you can fail a test and you can still compete with sort of no process, right? You can fail a test as long as nobody finds out about it, or you don't open the B sample, you can still do your fight. And I can't think of athletics or track and field or football or rugby or anywhere else where somebody would fail a test and then it's up to them to essentially say, let me have this one more match, or, let me do this one more Olympics, and then after the Olympics, we can sort it out, but I'll compete against everybody else, right? I think that's one thing which is really weird and I think is sort of quite corrupt, if I'm being honest. And what's happened is, the real question for me is that how often does this happen, right? Like, how often do these fights take place? Because nothing might have not happened if that news article hadn't come out reporting it. So how many fights have we seen under Eddie Hearn's watch in British boxing where fighters fail the test and then they just don't fight for the next year or 6 months or, whatever, and we just never find out about it? Like, how many fights have there been where a fighter that's tested positive has actually been fighting because they haven't opened the B sample or they haven't done the injunction or whatever that might be?
Do you mean fighters that have been parked up?
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? How do I know that the fighters that haven't been parked up, somebody's fought and they've been parked up for a year or two, they've actually tested positive, so they fought and then they've just sat and nobody knows about it? Because clearly that's what they were intending to do here, right? They were intending to do the fight and then maybe parking up Ben Forbett and, they induce ban or go through the legal process and clear it all up or whatever they're intending to do. But essentially they were intending for him to fight against Eubank, everybody to pay and think that there's two clean athletes fighting and nobody knowing or leaking this information.
Yeah. Off top of my head, there has been certain fighters that have been parked up, but if we mention their names, we're not saying they failed dope tests because we don't know, do we?
No.
There has been a few that have been parked up, haven't there?
I mean, people can go through the Matchroom roster on their own, or they could go through what the roster was 2-3 years ago and look at the fighters that haven't fought for a year or two. I think the pandemic was actually a perfect opportunity to park people up for the last few years, right? There weren't enough shows, and it would be easy to park somebody up for a year or two.
I can reel names off now that I think, well, they're not active. John Ryder, Callum Smith, there's two there. Who were under Eddie, they weren't very active. They were at one point, and then all of a sudden, but we're not saying that they failed any dope tests. And I always just think, well, how come they're not getting them out? Kel Brook were inactive, wasn't he, under Eddie? We're not saying he's failed a dope test, though.
No, and look, all we're saying is that the public do not know who has failed the test unless some newspaper finds out that information. And it seems like this is one of the only few sports. Like, how often do you see a 100-meter sprinter getting caught? All the time, right, for doping? And it gets publicly announced, it gets put on a website. In boxing, we probably haven't found out most of it. There's been all these articles about the number of boxers that are doing doping, but the reality could be that you know, a lot of people are getting caught all the time, but we just never know about it.
Yeah. What do you think the answer is, Rico?
I think just more transparency, and I think the process should be fairly simple, right? If you have a test and there's an adverse finding, then you shouldn't fight for 2 years. And if you want to clear your name, you shouldn't fight while you're trying to clear your name and go through the courts and everything else. But it's fairly simple, right? If somebody fails a test, then it should be public information.
Yeah.
I think it was criminal what they essentially did, right? They tried to con people to pay for pay-per-view, where one fighter tested positive, and then even when they knew that, only because the fight wasn't going ahead, I mean, the board didn't allow the fight to go ahead, they cancelled the fight, and by that time people had spent lots of money traveling down. So I know, a couple of people I know from Scotland, they were down in London that weekend because they had tickets for the fight and the show. They'd already booked their flights and hotels. They'd come down to London for that weekend because you've already paid for everything. So the only person that loses is the consumer or the person that buys the boxing tickets. And what that does is that really breaks trust in the whole sport. The next time there's a show up in Manchester, why would I pay, to go up there and get a hotel? Because I don't know if it's going to go ahead, right?
Yeah. I think what it's going to do is people are going to say, do you know what? I'm not booking hotels. I'm not booking flights. I'm not booking trains, coaches, taxis, lifts, planning anything until they've had the weigh-in.
Yeah.
That's what I think will happen, because fighters don't get paid till after weigh-in, do they? That's when escrow gets transferred, doesn't it, after weigh-in, doesn't it, and all that. It's in a holding account, isn't it? So I think that's what will happen. It's had a knock-on effect. They don't want to come out and answer any questions, because it ain't just going to be about, oh, you buried test and all that. It's going to be about, because I'm not hearing anything from anybody about, what about the fans? What about the expense? What about 20,000 people buying tickets? And is it 14,000 hotels? The other 6,000, 500 people jetting in from Europe and other places, and 14,000 in hotels. What about all them? Them hotel people are not bothered because the people have paid for it. Well, we'll have a weekend in London, but they've got no boxing, have they? When all they're going to do all weekend while they're not drinking is hammer boxing and say, you know what? Pork is ripe. It's in the gutter. I'm all right.
Yeah, it's really sad, and it's also just short term, isn't it? It's very short term thinking.
Yeah,
in the sense that you're just shooting yourself. In football, right? Football, sometimes when the fans travel to these games and teams play terribly, right? They'll refund the tickets, or they'll do something, even though the fans have turned up, or they'll do something to make up for it. Whereas boxing, it's always just take, right? That's what they do, just take in from the fans, trying to extract them. We'll get to Fury against Chisora, and that's another example where you just try and take from the fans, right? When does boxing ever give anything back? That's the real problem.
Do you know what would have been a good thing for him to do? Because this is basically, I've heard back that this is just a sparring session for Tyson Fury, this, against Derek. But it's in front of loads of people. It's just an easy win in front of his own fans, isn't it? You know what? He could have given something back and said, you know what? Let's not do this pay-per-view, and let's not have the belt on the line, and let's show a little bit of respect to boxing and to fans. But they couldn't do that because everybody takes. They takes and take, don't they, all the time? Greedy, grubby little people. And people who are all running around going, Fury power, Fury power. And war Chisora. When the last time he ever brought a war to a fight?
I mean, he's 1 and 3 in his last 4 fights. It's pretty bad, isn't it?
8 and 7 in his last 15.
But also, how is he ranked in a position where he can actually take this fight even as a voluntary? That makes no sense.
Slipped him in last month, didn't they, to rankings, didn't they? You don't beat Pulev at 40 odd in a life and death and get a world title shot off back of that.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? If they would have made Joe Joyce against Fury, I'd actually find that fight quite interesting. I think it would be a good
I
fight.
know. Hey, Derek didn't want Joe Joyce for 800 grand, did he, a couple of years ago? Do you remember?
Do you remember Frank saying Chisora should retire? He's washed. He's essentially, done as a fighter, and he'd never get near Tyson Fury. And here we are. I think with that fight in particular, I'll be interested to see how many tickets they can sell to the Spurs Stadium in an open air boxing stadium, boxing fight on December the 3rd in the middle of winter. I think it's quite ambitious what they're trying to do. And also, I just don't think people care enough.
I don't think it happens, me, but if I say that, well, I've said it now, but if I keep repeating it, people say, oh, Porky, you're a hater. You're a hater. You just don't want to see Tyson get more millions and beat people up. I want to see Tyson Fury fight like every other boxing fan. However, I want to see him in a fight where he goes into it and I'm thinking, is he going to win this? This is ooh. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, Wilder, I wouldn't mind seeing him against Wilder again, if I'm being honest. But Joe Joyce would be I think Joe Joyce would be a great
Usyk?
Usyk, yeah.
There's 3 there. I don't want to see him in with anybody else except them 3. No good to me. Any of them others I can't buy into. Certainly not pay-per-view. Come on. Pay-per-view. Chisora. Why does he keep getting pay-per-views? Chisora, it's craziness.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And also, it's if you think about the fights that fans want to see, right? Your objective as a boxing promoter is to put on shows that fans want to see. You should be looking to grow the sport, get people more interested. How much do you reckon they're going to be charging for the pay-per-view? 25, 30 quid, right?
It'll be 20 to 25 this will be, won't it?
I think they'll do more given inflation. Everything else is so much more expensive. But I think your point about giving something back, right? We're living in a country at the moment where the economy is a shambles. Everything's more expensive, whether it's your petrol, heating. People are struggling to spend money in the supermarket.
Hey, listen, Rico, let me just say this to you, right? Aldi at Bramley, £2.35 for Dan Pack butter, and they make it on the same industrial estate as Lurpak. It's even the same packaging but a different name. £2.35, that used to be £1.85. I thought we were supposed to be in struggling and all that. They're putting everything up.
I know. I mean, you know what? I went to Boots and got a meal deal, a sandwich meal deal. A sandwich, a bag of crisps, and a drink. £5 used to be £3.50. That's the thing, but this is my point: is Christmas is coming. It's going to be expensive for a lot of people. They need to buy presents for their kids. Then you're going to be charging £25 for this crock of shite, right? How does that make any sense?
It doesn't, does it? And do you know what? December the 6th, I personally feel that people are going to vote with their feet. They're already saying every alt tickets are gone. Yeah, to secondary ticket markets, but it doesn't mean say that people are going to buy them, does it?
No, you won't see a full stadium. You will see, and it will be a lot of NHS workers and firefighters.
Would you say, Rico, that Bricktop pulls the show?
Yeah, something's going to happen. I think. Look, there's a few things at play here, right? They must have some sort of agreement on how much Tyson Fury needs to fight, because the whole Frank Warren contract's predicated on Tyson Fury essentially. No one else is a draw, right? No one else is pulling in the views or numbers. The whole yard thing hasn't really worked because it hasn't got to level they probably thought. Dubois on the road on a comeback. Joyce is a good fighter, but not really a draw.
It's echoing, Rico, in your room. I don't know what's going on there. It's echoing a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's like echoing a bit.
Shouldn't be.
Is that better? Yeah, that's better, yeah.
Okay. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that they probably have to have a certain amount of Fury fights to make the whole BT thing work. Is it still echoing?
No, it's okay. Go on, yeah, go on.
Yeah, they probably have to have a certain amount of those Fury fights to make the BT thing work, and that's why they're just trying to squeeze something in at the end of the year, and they probably just trying to balance the books for Frank and everybody else. That's my view.
Balance the books. Well, look, they've got Chisora on cheap, haven't they? Because if it were another opponent, a good one, they'd have had to pay more than what Derek's game, wouldn't they?
100%, mate. 100%.
Derek's 40 next year, so he just wants his pension and he wants to go, doesn't he? Well, he won't go. He'll get this, and then he'll go down the line, and he'll just be some guy that gets knocked about till he's about 42, won't
he? Yeah, exactly. And he'll turn up like War Chisora, that thing, you know, he'll fight against.
War
Chisora.
Yeah, War. Yeah. There you go. War. When can you imagine him in World War II? Yeah, don't worry about it. We're gonna send in Derek Chisora to sort Hitler out. War Chisora. Oh, well, what's he like? Well, he's pushing 40, and you know, every time he fights, it's a war. Well, I've never seen a war since he fought Dylan White. That's his last war, and he ended up being scraped off canvas, didn't he? That was the best of it. That was it. Once Dylan finished with him with that knockout in the 11th, that was it. We all saw what Caballel did to him, didn't we? So what's Fury going to do to him? It'd be a slaughter.
I mean, how does anybody? This is the thing. Like, how does anybody think the result is going to change from the previous fight? Right? Like, why would it change? Right?
It ain't, is it?
No, I mean, if anything, Fury's probably got better and stronger. I mean, less said about that, the better, I'd say. We don't want to get letters from lawyers. But Chisora's declined, definitely. He's not near the fighter he was when he fought against Fury the first and second time, right? He'd come off fighting against Klitschko. So what's going to change, right? What's going to change?
Nothing's going to change, in my opinion, mate. Nothing, except Derek's going to come out swingers. He's going to give it his best go, and he'll come out swinging. That's what I think. I think he'll come out swinging like a lunatic, and Fury will just go pop, pop, bang, end of. Give me them belts back that you stole, yeah, bum. But he hasn't stolen any belts, has he? But I just think Fury will just slaughter him, man. I don't see a chink in his armour at the moment with all these who are going against him. They're not going to. The only person I see finding a chink is Wilder, if he can knock him down and keep him down, nail him to canvas, or Usyk, and he's very similar to Fury. He's like a smaller version of Fury, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's a smaller version, but I think when it comes to that size thing, I think Fury it will be a tougher fight because Fury would have to fight against such a smaller guy, and you know, Fury's not an entertaining fighter. I think people forget that. But you know, he couldn't grab and he couldn't do the things he usually does. It would be a bit harder with a smaller guy that's quick on their feet.
Do you think that Tyson? I mean, if I say this, people go, "Oh, Parky, you're hating on him." But do you think Tyson might be in decline and he's picking these fights because he just wants to pick and poke his way through the division without? Because he fought Wilder and Klitschko, and do you think he can't? He don't want to risk it against Usyk. Do you think? Joshua?
I think to an extent, yeah. And the other thing is, Usyk's high risk. I mean, I don't think Usyk beats Tyson, but I think he's high risk, low reward. I mean, he's not a guy that speaks English.
Yeah.
He's not really an engaging guy, right?
Yeah.
I think if you put this on pay-per-view, this fight here, which is all versus Fury, I think it does more buys from the casuals than Usyk against Fury, right?
Yeah.
That's a sad state of boxing. And I mean, people aren't excited about Usyk. He's not like a guy that he knocks people out cold like Wilder. So it's a really hard. It's sort of one of those fights. You don't really need that fight for Fury. And I think the other thing that you pointed towards is Tyson is at that stage of his career where I think if he can make as much money with as little effort as possible in boxing, he'll do that.
Yeah. Well, listen, you've got to look at it like this, right? And I've just said this to Ken. Eddie Hearn or Eddie Hills, the 5-0 Iceman from Billericay, free by way of. Eddie Hills found a way with Anthony Joshua to sell events with him fighting mediocre opponents. And I think that all they've done is they've got Tyson now and he's selling out arenas. They're just doing the same thing. They're just copying what Eddie Hearn were doing. And they're just going to give us a load of rubbish to get us to buy into it. You know, all that like last thing that Derek's going to lose is his power. It only takes one punch, and look what he did to Usyk, and all that rubbish, and everybody's falling for it, but not me, not Porky. I'm not falling for it. Are you falling for it, Rico?
No, I mean, I haven't seen anything from Derek to think that, yeah, he'd do anything in the fight that we should be worried about. I mean, this is my acid test always. Can you see a single way that Chisora can win? And my answer is I can't. I genuinely can't. I can't see any way that Chisora would be able to win the fight.
What about a Takam punch where he got leveled? He got filled in for every second of every round of every minute of every round against Takam. Then he managed to pull it out of that, didn't he? That were a few years ago. I don't see that happening, do you?
But Takam is not Tyson Fury, right?
These are
fighters. Takam wouldn't even be a sparring partner. Well, he might be a sparring partner. He's a glorified sparring partner, isn't he?
Yeah. Takam, Tyson just turned him on. He said, look, I've seen Tyson spar Joe Joyce when they were pushing Thetis Clem. And Joyce couldn't get near him, right? And he was Olympic silver medalist at the time. And he turned pro and he couldn't get near him. Tyson just stood in the middle of the ring and didn't really move his feet. Never got hit. He just embarrassed him. So what's Derek War? Let's remember the name, War. Let's see how much of a war he puts up. You know, when he quits after about 4 or 5 rounds, you know, when he's all bashed up and that, and he's saying, oh, I'm sorry and all this, and then they wave him off into the sunset like they should have done after Cooler. Give him his check and he goes. And then he'll come back again with War in a year later. So he'll need a year to get over beating Fury's going to give him. If it happens, big if. Because they're going to sell it out first to make the numbers up. If they don't sell it out, they've got problems, haven't they? But looking at the queuing process that somebody sent me tonight on it looks like they're going to sell it out. I mean, God, these people must be crazy or fanatical. But then again,
you know what? The selling out thing, I'm not sure I believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. And I mean, well, we can talk offline again.
Okay then, Rico.
Why they're selling out.
Let me throw a curveball at you, Rico. Saudi didn't want the fight, did they? Fury Chisora, and Fury can't go to America. What do you think about him saying, I'm bringing it back to Britain and all that for fans and all that?
Well, I'm not sure he's. I'll be interested to see where in the world he can travel currently. That's the big question, right? I imagine he cannot travel to Dubai. I imagine he cannot travel to the US.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a few other locations where he cannot travel. So I think that's probably one of the limiting factors, right?
Yeah.
So you know what? History will be revised, right? People think that Fury is doing it for the goodness of his heart, and they'll forget the real reason why Fury is in Britain, and the real reason why a lot of these ex-MTK fighters cannot travel in the United Kingdom, you know, outside of the United Kingdom.
You want to click on part 2, Rico?
Yeah, let's do that.
Cheers, mate.